Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mendel, the Lead Hound, and today, the Zeta Nuzlocke series has come to a close. Last Tuesday, I uploaded the last episode of that series, and as promised, this is the episode where I will sort of look back on the game in general, and more specifically, my playthrough of it, and I will discuss my experiences, what I thought of the game, and just give my, my overall impressions of it. So I really enjoyed Zeta. I think that should be obvious for those who watched the whole series. There were obviously points that I didn't quite like, and I'll get into that later. But I suppose it was it felt like a real Pokemon game. That was the thing that I liked most about it. Is it really fit into the theme and overall, I suppose, feeling is the word you could use of a Pokemon game. It flowed very much like a Pokemon game and had a logical progression similar to one. So, obviously, you have the gyms, you have your starter Pokemon, like, it follows all those general tropes you expect from a Pokemon game, and it has the team, but then it does interesting tweaks on those expectations, like, for example, with the starters, it was existing Pokemon, but it still followed the type pattern. So obviously fire, water, grass is the general type pattern. You're usually offered one of those, well, you're always offered one of those unless it's yellow, to start the game. And this game followed that, but it used old Pokemon, so and it changed them so that they were the quality of starters. So like, even if you chose Bellsprout, it wouldn't be like you were starting the game with the Bellsprout. It would be like you were starting with a top-tier Bellsprout, like a really powerful one. So just small tweaks on the formula that made it its own game while still keeping it very much a Pokemon game. Things like that are things that I really appreciated about this game. So I'll start off with, I'll go point by point, I'll go back and forth between positive and negative things. So the first thing I'll discuss is a positive one, and that is the story. I really liked the story in this game. I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't get to see where it goes. In fact, I might even choose to just play this game, just on my own, just because I really wanted to see where it goes after where I got to. Obviously, I didn't even get to beat Odin. I fought him, but that's where I failed. So, in my version of the story, apparently, Odin is successful. After I beat his grunts over and over again, and I beat his lieutenants, it didn't matter, because Odin beat me, so he was successful in the end. What do you think about that, huh? But the story was great. It had, it had some twists that I didn't really expect, I'm trying to think, right at the beginning of the game, your hometown is destroyed. That's very interesting. That's not usually the way it goes. You start off with sort of this big, well, not really a big sequence, but this sort of, compelling reason to journey that you're not usually given in a Pokemon game. Usually it's just like, hey, go on, do your thing. But in this game, it's like, no, you're escaping, and you have to, rise up against Team Asgard, and it's very compelling. I really appreciated the story. What else? Okay, now I'll move on to a negative point. I've got them written down here. So, one negative point I have is the inconsistency of the game. Now, the game obviously was made in RPG Maker. RPG Maker isn't the most robust game-making system, but it is, it's decent, it's baseline, it's acceptable. I wouldn't say RPG Maker was, the problem of the game, like it wasn't the underlying problem, but certain things just were very inconsistent, as I already said about this point. I'm repeating myself now. But for example, when I was trying to navigate the menus sometimes in the battle, you've seen me do it in the battles, where I'm trying to move from the bag to the attack, and it just won't let me do it, or it switches back and forth, and it doesn't work great. Also, some inconsistency with the mechanics, as in it was hard to see how things worked because they behaved differently multiple times. It wasn't always really clear what was going on, which also sort of ties into another negative point, which I'll get into. But just overall, the game wasn't highly consistent in what it expected from you and what you actually did for the game, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure if I'm quite conveying this point accurately, but essentially just the game didn't follow a sort of single pattern. It constantly changed what was happening, and that can be good, but in this circumstance, they did it in certain negative ways, so I'll leave that point off. It's a little bit confusing. I'm sorry if that was sort of rambly, but whatever. So another positive thing, this is just a smaller one, but the references, I thought this game was really funny. I thought it was hilarious, and, you had, obviously, that big one in the Asgard base, you find Ash, apparently, and I was not expecting that. That was a great reference. Apparently he got down on his luck and had to join Team Asgard. What do you know? But there's just smaller things. There was someone who referenced Super Hot Fire, which obviously I think is very funny because I quote it all the time. But just overall, it was a very humorous game. It didn't take itself very seriously, but it did have its serious moments, which was great. So the references and humor and tone of the game was spot on. I think I really appreciated that. Okay, another negative aspect was the sound, and this I'm going to have underneath this playing my favorite song from Zeta, because I really, really like this song. This song, I call it the Ruins theme. I'm not sure what the actual term is, but they play it whenever you're in like a ruined sort of area. Obviously, the main one being Nyessa, and it's very like Lavender Town-esque in the way it's I don't know how you would say composed, I suppose. It's very light and flowing, and it has the feeling of like, the calm after some great calamity has just come through this place, and I think that was great. Again, that's more of a positive point, but negatively, what I mean to say is there was nothing really interesting about the sound design. It didn't do anything to particularly, that made me go, oh, that's so great, aside from that one piece of music. Certain, like, for example, Jingle didn't even make any sounds, because apparently the clef key noises aren't in the game, and I understand that it's not a finished game. I should have started this whole thing by saying that, but this is not a finished game. I need to emphasize, I believe it's still in beta. I think it just recently moved to beta from alpha. So, considering where it is, it's acceptable. I would really appreciate it if they had more, unique sounds and music. I would really like to see the quality of that amped up. But, overall, just, not the most interesting sounds. That's all I have to say about that. Okay. So, the Pokemon variety, obviously, I was really happy to see some 6th Gen Pokemon, which is really cool, considering that it's 2D sprite. It's a 2D sprite-based game. You still had, I got a Klefki, I got a, what else did I get from the 6th Gen? I'm sure I got something else. Can't think of anything else right now. But obviously you had Pokemon from all the generations in all these areas, and that meant that the Nuzlocke was a lot more interesting, because I had a lot more things to choose from, and I appreciate that a lot. Durant, that was another one, I got a Durant. I think this game is really designed around the idea of a Nuzlocke. It seems like they were really conscientious of the Nuzlocke. Obviously, they put the rules in, and that'll be another positive point I'll go into. But I never really felt like. There were times when I thought my team was composed of some really weird Pokemon. There were definitely a bunch of Pokemon I used that I wouldn't usually use, but there was never a time when I felt like I was overwhelmed by one type of Pokemon. It seemed like the types of Pokemon were all really unique, even though there were a lot of caves, a lot of forests and stuff. It still wasn't limited to these certain Pokemon. There was a lot of variety in there, and I really appreciate that, and I think that was great. Okay, so for my final general negative point, I have to say the graphical quality of this game is not very good. I'm sorry, but it really needs some work. Some of the overworld sprites aren't even implemented. Some of them have dead pixels and just look, kind of ridiculous. The in-battle sprites are sometimes, not really up to scratch. Some of the 6th Gen sprites actually did look really good. I was, like, for example, Durant had a pretty nice looking sprite. But, also, I would also include, that sounds really great, doesn't it? I would also include the fact that, the attacks all looked very similar. They all looked pretty much the same. and the what am I even thinking of? The sprites wouldn't even react like they were supposed to, like when you're using fly or dig or any of that stuff. The sprites would just kind of stay there, which might not seem like much, but sometimes it made me like forget what was going on. Like I was like, wait a minute, didn't I just use fly? Pokemon's still there. It's just small things. The overworld sprites were, I mean, obviously a lot of them were copied from Pokemon games, so they were okay. They were decent, but I just, again, similar to the sound, it just, there wasn't anything really unique about it, and it just sort of pulls the whole thing down because of the small bugbears I do have with this problem. But the final positive thing, that's all for the negative, the final positive thing I'll go on to is the Nuzlocke reward system. The whole, I really appreciated that this game had built-in challenge rules. That's really awesome. I wish main series Pokemon games would implement this, because it gives much more incentive for replay, and it gives you this whole new dynamic of play. And, you know, obviously I turned on the Bravery Challenge, but if someone else wants to play it, maybe they don't want the Bravery Challenge, maybe they want that thing where you can't see the Pokemon before you catch them, or have them registered in your Pokedex or whatever. That would be pretty cool, you know? Or, you know, you can turn on the randomizer easily from the menu. That's great, honestly. That's one area where Zeta actually goes above main series Pokemon games, is their, you know, implementation of all these optional rules and stuff. I really think this is like a really good advanced Pokemon game for someone who's really experienced with Pokemon and is looking for something more from the games, and, you know, they've played most of them and want a challenge, a real challenge, and it's not just, you know, self-imposed rules. It's rules within the game, and you get rewards and various other, you know, there's incentive to do these things, and I just thought that was great. That was probably my favorite thing about this game, and I'm really glad. I mentioned at the very beginning of the series, those are all my points basically, so I'll just discuss this series in general now. So, I've wanted to do Nuzlocke for a little while now. I've been watching a few on YouTube, especially like Patters and Gay Boy Luke and them, and I just thought it was a really great format, and I just wanted to do a video like that so bad. And I thought it was going to take me, you know, like 4 or 5, you know, fan games that I would have to go through before I found one that I actually wanted to play. But Zeta was literally the first one that I tried, and I was like, wow, this is so great, I can just use this one, and I didn't even have to look at anything else, and that just makes me really happy, because it makes me think that hopefully there's more games like this out there that I can do in the future. I would love to see more Zeta-like games. I would hope that, you know, obviously my negative points are a little stronger in the other games, maybe some of the positive points are a little weaker. Can't expect everything, but I just really like this series, and some of the I think I could have I think the overlay it was kind of boring. It just maybe I could try and work on a more interesting overlay. I think it was just a little bit generic. I mean, it was really purple, let's be honest, just because I thought Zeta, so I put in a purple background and all this stuff. It was a little bit of it was a little bit of an oversight on my part that it was just this overwhelming one color. I'm gonna try to make layouts in the future be much better, but overall I think this series went really well. I'm happy with how it turned out, and I'm not sure if I would change too much, but one thing I know I would definitely like to change, this is probably the biggest negative thing for the series, was the inconsistency of the length of episodes. So I'm going to try and figure out, I might be like, you know, throughout the beginning of the next Nuzlocke series that I do, I'm going to try and figure out what the sort of sweet spot is for videos. Currently I'm thinking probably something around, you know, 20 to 30 minutes, because that gives you, you know, a little bit of variance. So you can go, you know, a little bit under maybe 18 minutes if you have just a short episode you want to do, or you can go all the way up to 30 if you're going through, like, you know, a team base or something and you want to get as far as you can. I should just try and keep it like very sort of unimodal, like, so that people aren't, you know, coming to the channel and they're seeing there's you know, a 20-minute episode and the next is almost an hour-long episode, and then a few 30 minutes tossed in there and things like that. I'm gonna try, and so like 25 minutes is gonna be like my magnet point. I'm gonna try and pull the episodes towards that sort of area, and hopefully that'll work out. And maybe it won't, maybe I'll have to change that, but other than that, I think the series went pretty well, and I hope that everyone enjoyed watching it, because I most certainly enjoyed making it, and I can't wait to get started on the next one. I've already begun work. I've already chosen the game I'm going to be doing. I need to work on the layout. I need to start recording, but it will definitely be ready for next week. You will see my next series. I'm not going to announce it here. I'm just going to put it up when it's ready. But it's on the way, and I hope that everyone is excited, because more Nuzlocks are coming. So thank you everybody for watching. This has been a great experience, and I do very much hope that you come back to see the next one. Thank you so much for watching, everyone.